Silver got the Friday smackdown, which is something we've not seen for quite some time, although it could have been much worse. I'll explain what happened and why we should be still very content with what silver's doing with a piece of information that I'm going to share with you in this video. So stay tuned as we explore. Summit Metals is a place to go for your precious metal needs to experience some of the best customer service in the industry. Elevate your wealth with Summit Metals by clicking on the link down in the description below. Silver had a bad day, but nonetheless, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, and I think it's going to be much like what we saw when the previous price getting smacked down, a crushing of the price. Well, typically it recovers very soon after, and I think that's going to happen in this case too. Every Sunday night, I do a market watch on this channel when we watch the metals move as the Asian markets open in Hong Kong and sometimes in Shanghai. And we very well could see a turnaround or a continued move in a downward direction. So I hope you will join me every Sunday night on this channel for a live broadcast for that event. Let's talk a little bit about what a mainstream media source says what happened today in the silver market, and then we're going to get into what some of you are saying about what happened in the silver market today. Reuters is reporting that silver prices fell nearly 3% on Friday after hitting an all-time high earlier in the session as profit-taking set in, while gold rose to a 7-week peak. So there it is, profit-taking, people selling off at the high. It makes sense on the surface. And you know what? I like to believe that that's what happened. And I think it's a combination of both things. And I'm not trying to rag the fence here, but I do want to keep an open mind ever before to what's going on in the markets, especially with the margin call increases that I reported on in this morning's video. And I'll get to that in a moment. They're reporting here that the dollar held steady after falling in recent sessions. A firmer dollar makes greenbacked price metals less affordable to foreign buyers. And as I look at this, the market right now, the dollar is up, but only slightly. It's at 98.36, and it's a 0.03% increase that we're seeing with the dollar index. There's some blowing off steam on slight uptick in U.S. dollar and an element of profit-taking putting pressures on prices, according to Bart Malik, global head of commodity strategy at TD Securities. Silver prices are up nearly 5% for the week and have gained 112% this year, spurred by tightening inventories, sustained industrial demand, and its inclusion in the U.S. critical minerals list. The price increase has become excessive, which calls for caution, CMZ said in a note. In the longer term, the fundamental outlook for silver remains positive due to forecast increases in industrial demand. And I agree with that analysis for sure. The U.S. Federal Reserve this week announced its third and final quarter-point rate cut for this year, but signaled caution on further rate cuts until more data emerges. Investors are pricing in 2 rate cuts next year and are awaiting next week's U.S. non-farm payrolls report. Non-yielding gold tends to do well in a low interest rate environment, and the average forecast for gold that they have is $4,213 per ounce, according to Malik. That's the average, not the high. Elsewhere, the U.S. is preparing to intercept more ships carrying Venezuelan oil after seizing a tanker this week as Washington increases pressure on President Nicolas Maduro, according to sources. And so that's geopolitical uncertainty here and on this hemisphere, but certainly around the world, that is shaking a whole around the world what's going on there. So that's one aspect. Now, I've looked on some other research, and based off the margin increases, percentage increases to 10% as reported on, it may seem like they're showing their hand, the COMEX is. But in the short term, it could be actually bad, as essentially it's one of those things that it makes the longs harder to buy because of the increased margin calls. So that means it's good for the shorts, bad for the longs. So this is a short-term prospect of what we're seeing here that could have a long-term good reaction for silver. Because some of you have posted about that in the comments in that video, and that very, very well could be that this is bad for the shorts and the short term. And then the other thing is how this has occurred. Well, let's take a look at what the market report is here. What are the prices doing moments before the markets close? Gold is up 0.47% to up $19.90 per ounce to $4,301 an ounce. It reached a session high today of $4,354.30. Platinum is also up 3%. And surging in price. Platinum is right now up $51 to $1,755. But silver rather is fallen. It fell well over 3% earlier in the trading session, down to a session low of $60.75. After surging earlier in the day, much earlier in the day, to $64.69. That's 31 cents shy of $65 silver. That is amazing that we were able to get that high with silver. But since then, it has recovered a fairly good portion of its losses, at least enough, well over half a percentage recovery here, to now trading above $62 in the ask price. It's down 2.51% right now, down $1.60 to $62.03. The bid price, though, is still below $62. And that leaves us now with the gold to silver ratio still below 70. That's good news, but it is still, it was much below that earlier. It's at 69.46 at this point in time. So silver got a bump here. It got bumped down rather. It got hit, it got crushed today, but nonetheless, there's always the next trading session, and we're going to find out on Sunday night. So, but what is this good news? What is this something else you need to know? Well, there's a pretty big thing that has happened, and really it was even more apparent earlier in the day, but when these numbers were updated, and we're talking about the market cap. That's right, the market cap by commodity assets ranked by market cap, and this is always an interesting chart. We can see that gold is definitely far and above the top asset class out there, and has been for quite some time, with a market cap of $30.1 trillion. It's pretty amazing, especially with the price now hovering right near record highs right now. It's just amazing. Number two behind that is NVIDIA. Not much surprise there. A major chip company, especially with AI and computers and the like. They are a massively growing company here with a $4.2 trillion market cap. Not far behind them is Apple at $4.1 trillion. The number four is Alphabet Google. That's right. That is the host of this platform from which you're watching this video at this point in time. It is at $3.7 trillion. And then what was number five, but is now, it was number six, but is now number five, is Microsoft. And it has fallen today, believe it or not, at $3.5 trillion. But not far behind that is silver. That's right. Silver is number six now, whereas before I think it was number eight. But it is now, since its price increase, because I've not checked this in a while, it is now number six in market cap with a $3.49 trillion market cap. And it's down, at that point in time, it was down 3.9%. So really, and it's all said and done, silver's price, I think, did lose almost 4% when it bottomed out at $60.75. But that is almost double. That is almost double Bitcoin right now, because Bitcoin has fallen by so much over the last couple of months. It's been hovering here. Now it's at $90,231, but it's at $1.8 trillion. But earlier in the day, it had practically doubled Bitcoin. That tells you something. People are moving more towards silver. And it's pretty amazing. But silver's now far above and beyond Amazon, which is also quite intriguing to see here. So when we look at the charts and we see what happened with silver today, it is pretty amazing. The volume of trading around 11 a.m. and 10 a.m. started to really smack down the price of silver. I mean, it just sawtoothed all the way down there from that high. This volume was massive, and it begs the question: is this an example of these high-frequency trades coming in such a short amount of time, of timed selling points? Once it reaches $64.50, which seems to be the number quite around there where this had occurred. I think to some extent it does. These are timed where it can be programmed that once it reaches a certain price, sell. And I think that's what happened. But I think on top of that, you may see larger institutions, the big bullion banks, pile on to this and push it and tamp it down even further. I would not be surprised if that's what's happening. Now, I may be one of the only one that has that theory in mind. No one really, truly knows. And I think unless we could actually prove it in a court of law, only then will we see some sort of example of accountability here if there is price suppression by the big bullion banks. Now, what the COMEX did, some people see that raising the margin calls as being a suppressive force, and it very well could be, to inhibit the longs positions. But this situation here, with this massive move in volume, which has since tapered off, and much like what we saw on the Sunday night broadcast, it tapered off and the price started to move right back up again. And we're seeing now sort of a ceiling here at around $62 an ounce, and it's been bouncing around. It hits 62, then it comes back down. Volume decreases even more. It goes up, and then it falls back down and goes up. So it seems to be hovering around this resistance of $62 at this point in time. But what happened around 10 o'clock this morning was pretty wild to see. And many people think that that is an example and proof positive of this suppression. But where are those trades coming from? Where can we see that data? I don't think we can. I think a lot of it's private. Who is buying? Who is selling, and what's going on there? So it's fascinating. Either way you look at it, it's a move that we're seeing some recovery now as the markets are getting ready to close here in a moment for the week, and we're above $62 at least right now. By the time you see this video over the weekend, it could have fallen a little bit more than that, but right around the high 61 range to the low 62. That's a pretty good end of the week, I would say, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens when Sunday night comes around. Let me know what your thoughts are about today's market moves with silver. I hope you found this video informative and insightful. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.